Hey everybody and welcome back. Tyler here with Tyler Talks, and in today's video I want to walk through or do a quick overview of the Draftbit platform. Now I've done reviews of different codeless development platforms, whether they be low code or no code. I came across Draftbit and thought it'd be a good idea to do a really quick review or just overview of the platform. So we will jump into actually using the platform in a bit, but starting off I wanted to do a quick overview of just what you can expect. Now, one of the things that I noticed from Draftbit is it has a very similar feel to other codeless development platforms out there. Specifically, to me at least, it feels kind of like Flutterflow. So as we're scrolling through, you'll see the general overview, all of the different things that they're advertising, AI assistants, things of that nature. But what I recommend is just looking over the features, because typically if there's a specific feature you want that a codeless development platform doesn't offer, obviously it's not going to work for you. So we'll scroll through and you'll see that they have a component library, and as you scroll in or zoom in or scroll through, you'll see some of what that looks like. But most of this kind of has a push to go ahead and sign in instead of just looking through things super quickly. Now, pricing does have a little bit more detail. So you'll see that we can start out in a free plan, which I really like. You have your core building features, access to all of the components, which is really nice, and then 5 screens per project and a couple of other things to really just get you started, and then you upgrade to publish. Now, with the basic plan, which I think most people will fall into basic and pro because this has the ability to publish. So in basic, you can publish to iOS and Android for one project, and you have unlimited screens, image generation, and publish to the web. Now, the difference with that in pro is in pro, you get 5 projects. You get the iOS and Android simulator, custom code and packages, AI code assist, and then export and push to GitHub. Then obviously you have the team option if you're interested. You can scroll through and see that there is also a build together option for the enterprise side of things, and then you can always click here to see a full comparison and get an idea of all the different features and functionality that would be included across the various platforms. So you can scroll through here. I always recommend doing this first and foremost because it's really good to know if there's a specific thing that you're going to have to pay extra for. For example, if there's a limited number of users or a limited number of certain types of functionality like database storage, things of that nature. Now, once you've created your Draftbit account, you'll sign in and we'll go through as many of these prompts as we can. So you can basically say, what are you looking to do with Draftbit? So we'll just say we're going to build a new app, and we'll just see what we can do. We'll say, we'll go with semi-technical, and then we'll just say that we're an individual, and then we'll go with idea. And then we'll say we haven't decided, and then we'll just put other. And then you'll see that you get the option to select a plan if you're interested, but we're going to get started for free. And then it gives you this video, which we're going to skip and just try to jump into the actual project itself. Now, a little annoying that you do have a couple of different options for payment, but it does still let you get into the platform without any major issues, and I didn't have to enter any kind of specific payment information. So we're going to click here and click to create our first project. All right, so we can go ahead and create our test project. So we'll call this testing, and then we'll just type some random letters here. And then you'll see that we have a couple of options here. We'll say we don't have our back end, and then we can choose the options. So we'll put, maybe we want to make this as an education app, and then you can choose your deployment option as well. Now, you'll see that we have a couple of different items here as far as just, we'll just say applications that you could use that are kind of a template. So we'll choose this Get Fit workout. And then here, we'll just make this a thumbs up, and that's the icon. And we'll just click I'm ready. And you'll see from here, we're just going to wait for this application to be created. All right, almost there. We're going to click Let's Go, and then it will usually take another couple of seconds. So the initial loading screen, I would say, takes maybe 45-50 seconds. This one is a little bit quicker, and then we get dropped into the App Builder dashboard. Now, I'm not going to make this part incredibly in-depth because, as you can see, we have quite a bit to work with. But what I want to note here is just making sure that you have an understanding of the basics. So when we first land in this app, the top left has the screens. So we have our app name right here and our icon. And then we have our screens, and you'll see the count of the number of screens. So we can scroll through and look at each individual screen. For example, if we click languages or if we click profile, you can see what those pages look like. Now, a couple of things to note with some of these items or options is considering if you want this page to be something that has, we'll just say dynamic data. So as you can tell, we were just looking at this profile option, but the profile page is likely going to be something that's customized to each user, as opposed to some other pages like the languages pages, which will be probably like a sign-up page that will likely be more static. So you can go through and see each individual page. For example, if we were to scroll through and find like a create account page, the page will load in the middle, and you'll see at the top we have a couple of different options to change the view. And then you also have the web preview, iOS, and Android. So you can upgrade to access those simulators if you're interested. Now, beneath the pages is going to be a list of all the components in that given page. So you'll see we haven't selected anything yet, but if I were to click a button, it'll show you on the component section what has been selected. Now, from here, you have the option to click copy if you want, and then you have the ability to essentially manage and kind of paste that in if that's something that you want to do. So you'll see it's marked to be copied. Click here to unmark. So you have the ability to mark those items, and then you can click here, save it as a custom block, unmark for copy, add parent, or duplicate. So if I were to just click duplicate, for example, you'll see we now have that second option. Now I can unmark it for copy because the duplicate function is basically independent of that, but that's kind of the general idea. You can just duplicate that way. Now you have these buttons. You have the ability in this window here, you can select components. For example, if I select create account, and you can see all of the styles, components, and information on the right. So the styles, again, it's quite a bit of content. You have all of the padding, the opacity, you can choose the styling for the text, the alignment. You have the ability to go into basics and choose advanced functionality and accessibility. You have the ability to work within this input text from the data field. And basically, again, quite a bit of information here. Now, when you click other components, this menu on the right-hand side will change based on what component that you're using. Now, you do also have the option, so you can click on a component and choose maybe to drag it down in this tree over here, and then you'll see where that component has now been moved to. You can also select components, and you have the option to manage if you want to delete them, and you'll see it says deleted component, and there's a trash bin as well, which is kind of nice. So we have all of our components. You can add components and pages by clicking here. You can add a blank page or use an example screen. And you can go to components and choose from a pretty wide range of options. For example, we could just choose this option, and you have the ability to drag, or we could bring over really any number of things. You see there's quite a few different icons, color options, again, just a lot of different features and functionality for you to use. And you'll see you'll need to select a parent component. So if I were to click here, then we can click, and then we can go through and try to figure out which component we want. And then from that point, you have the ability, now you'll see it can't be nested under text, but you can choose other components like primary sections, for example, or headers. So if we were to go back into this menu, you'll see that we now have the ability to add in that title text. So there's going to be a logical way that you have to add in those components. Now, again, all the components are here. You can add them, rearrange, drag things around, edit the settings over here on the right-hand side. And you also have the ability to edit additional functionality up here, such as color, things of that nature. You'll have the development environment, light mode, the live preview, and then the forced screen rebuild. Now, as we're scrolling through, you'll see we have blocks here, which again, not going to go into too much detail on. We also have this kind of large navigation menu, so you can see all of the screens in your app, and then you can select different screens to see essentially that content, the styles over here on the right, and then that preview in the middle. Now we do have the preview option here. You can choose and go through some additional options and see really just what that looks like on different applications, which is pretty cool. We then have the ability, you can see those kind of loading up here. We can go to styles and edit the theme we were just kind of looking at up here and choose something that works for us. You have your integrations with Segment. You have the ability to access source code, which is really cool. You have APIs and data sources. You have all of the different assets associated with your application, custom code, which you need to upgrade for. Then you have your variables and your project settings, along with a couple of additional options down at the bottom. So all things considered, it's a really, really interesting and unique platform. And as discussed in pricing, you can see all of the different features and functionality really just in relation to the cost and the plans to get an idea of if this will work for you. So I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, drop them in the comment box below, and I'll see you all in the next video.